Jai Rama Rama Kunjali Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladevi, Mai Subhadra. Jaya Shrimadbhagavatam, Jaya Bhagavatam, Jaya Shrimadbhagavatam, Jaya Govardhan. Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupada, Paramahansa Parivrara Gacharya. Dhrtarashtra Shishimar, His Divine Grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Lord, Most Merciful Lordship, Shri Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladev, Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Nathaji, Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki, Nitai Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the glorious feet of Shri Guru and Shri Govinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 18. Text 18. Viduras tad abhipretya Vidura vipretya Dhritarashram Abhasata Dhritarashram Abhasata Rajan Nirgamyatam Sigram Rajan Nirgamyatam Sigram Pasyedam Bhayam Agatam Pasyedam Bhayam Agatam Vidurastava Vipretya Vidurastava Vipretya Dhritarashram Abhasata Dhritarashram Abhasata Rajam Nirgamyatam Sigram Rajan Nirgamyatam Sigram Pasyedam Bhayam Sagatam Pasyedam Bhayam Agatam
Vidurastat abhipretya
Vidurastat abhipretya Dhritarashram Abhasata Rajan Nirgamyatam Sigram Pasyedam Bhayam Agatam Vidurastat abhipretya Dhritarashram Abhasata Rajan Nirgamyatam Sigram Pasyedam Bhayam Agatam Vidura Mahatma Vidura taught that abhipretya, knowing it well, Dhrtarashram, unto Dhrtarashtra, Abhasata said, Rajan, O king, Nirgamyatam, please get out immediately. Sigram, without the least delay. Pasya, just see. Idam, this. Bhayam, fear. Agatam, already arrived. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhrtarashtra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Please repeat. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhrtarashtra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhrtarashtra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Purport. Cruel death cares for none, be he Dhrtarashtra or even Maharaj Yudhisthira. Therefore spiritual instruction, as was given to old Dhrtarashtra, was equally applicable to younger Maharaj Yudhisthira. As a matter of fact, everyone in the royal palace, including the king and his brothers and mother, was raptly attending the lectures. But it was known to Vidura that his instructions were especially meant for Dhrtarashtra, who was too materialistic. The word Rajan is especially addressed to Dhrtarashtra, Significantly, Dhrtarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to law, he was to be installed on the throne of Hastinapur. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left behind him some minor children, and Dhrtarashtra became the natural guardian of them. But at heart, he wanted to become the factual king and hand the kingdom over to his own sons, headed by Duryodhana. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhrtarashtra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law, Sakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord, and at the last stage, even after losing everything, men and money, he wanted to remain as king. Being the eldest uncle of Maharaj Yudhisthira, as a matter of duty, maintained Dhrtarashtra in royal honor, and Dhrtarashtra was happily passing away his numbered days in the illusion of being a king, or the royal uncle of King Yudhisthira. Vidura, as a saint, and as the duty-bound, affectionate youngest brother of Dhrtarashtra, wanted to awaken Dhrtarashtra from his slumber of disease and old age. Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhrtarashtra as the king, which he was actually not. Everyone is a servant of eternal time, and therefore no one can be king in this material world. King means the person who can order. The celebrated English king wanted to order time and tide, but the time and tide refused to obey his order. Therefore, one is a false king in the material world. And Dhrtarashtra was particularly reminded of this false position and of the factual, fearful happenings which had already approached him at that time. Vidura asked him to get out immediately if he wanted to be saved from the fearful situation which was approaching him fast. He did not ask Maharaj Yudhisthira in that way because he knew that a king like Maharaj Yudhisthira is aware of all the fearful situations of his flimsy world and would take care of himself. In due course, even though Vidura might not be present at that time. Om Jnanatamanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakyusam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vidura has gone into the mood of meditation and renunciation, and now is advising his older brother as well to do the same in order to find peace with God, with Krishna, over all of this that has taken place now with the battle. I was meditating this morning. I had preached a few classes ago about how when we read Bhagavad Gita and we see the close friendship that Arjuna and Krishna had, and they had shared even through their youthfulness, Krishna reveals the reason for his giving Arjuna the knowledge that he was given to him was because the fact that they were close friends as they were. And then it became something to me that I considered very valuable, in that Krishna, this very conversation that he is having with Arjuna, he is saying Arjuna has become qualified for by the relationship they had developed, and yet he is giving it to us. And not only is he giving it to us, but he's giving it to us in such a way that we can sit down in a peaceful atmosphere and meditate on every word he's saying and think about it and let it go over in our minds over and over again. Arjuna had to hear this on a battlefield in which he's having to prepare to kill his own kinsman and make decisions based on what Krishna is telling him at that very moment. No days on end to think over whether I'll follow this group of people or not. That was the battlefield scene given to us to be able to evaluate in our minds in a peaceful set of circumstances. How dear does that make us to Krishna then, who's enabled us to be able to analyze all these things he's saying and he has said. He's saying right now because there are so many billions and billions of universes, and Krishna has entered into each and every one of them for the purpose of being able to lead the souls that have chosen to enter into those universes back to the eternal realm. So I was analyzing as well the fact that Lord Chaitanya, being the actual avatar of this age, who is giving the Dharma of the age, which is the responsibility of human beings for them to be able to practice in order to remove their minds and activities from the acts that cause karma, and thereby meditating on the name and the sound of the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is itself eternal. The first word spoken into the material universe, Krishna. And thereby adhering to the teachings given by the Yuga Avatar, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we derive the supreme benefit. See, Arjuna was even looking at heaven as the reward. All these victorious military participants in this battle were looking at the end result of their dying on the battlefield as heaven. As heaven. So Lord Chaitanya is bringing to us, ultimately, this internal knowledge of the universe, but Bhagavatam also written 5,000 years ago. The participants in the Battle of Kurukshetra, many of them would be conversant with the Mahabharata. Well, no, because it was about them. So they weren't even conversant with Mahabharata. By living experience, they would have known some of the participants personally, and they themselves would have been participants of the writing itself as well, the historical characters taking part in the battle itself. So that which we are now being given, passed down as knowledge, and being updated now by Lord Chaitanya just 540 years ago, we are getting the most recent update on the spiritual path for mankind to take part in, for him to be able to gain full knowledge of that which is coming from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the very words we study from every morning, this Bhagavatam is. But just as Bhagavad Gita reveals much of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas for the sake of gaining the spiritual planets within this universe, Bhagavatam is the cream taken from all the Vedas in order to give the understanding of the pastimes of Krishna and enable then those participants of the study and learning of Krishna's pastimes to be able to go back to the spiritual world, which is a big difference. So we see up until Lord Chaitanya's time, even, the chanting that that the devotees were taking part in up until that time. The Ishopanishads and Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita was being chanted. But this Maha Mantra Lord Chaitanya brought, and the offenses against the chanting of the holy name Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought with him. Well, these are eternal principles, just like Krishna comes to reestablish the principles of religion. So he did that in Bhagavad Gita, reestablishing those principles which up until that time had been meant as a means of gaining heavenly planets. Even in such a yuga, their meditation is to gain to such a loka. So even we just imagine how great this knowledge is that we are being given. It gives us the ability to be completely removed from the material universe altogether. That is the superior form that Bhagavatam is. And it reveals all the innermost secrets of all the previous scriptures ever given to humanity. By direct revelation of the fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sharing every soul's body. Every body souls are manifesting as in this material universe. The Supreme Consciousness, the Supreme Person who gives them the ability to perform their functions and to pass down their functions to their young. The bees to collect honey, the wild animals to devour their prey. If mankind is to be returned to his original state by the knowledge given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead individually to all the inhabitants of the planet Earth, then this full knowledge will then lead humankind into a completely different set of environmental circumstances that will be transforming this planet into a heavenly planet. Then the hope will not be to gain entrance into another heavenly planet. That will just be the result automatically of devotees engaging in the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if they are planting fruits and vegetables and flowers for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Personality, all of that planting that goes around the world will be putting the earth into that form that Krishna wants the earth to be put into. So all that will be grown with the hope by those who are planting the seeds. Even seeds that we know little about as far as the healing effects of them. The knowledge of those will be made known to mankind. By gaining God consciousness, mankind will gain full knowledge of how everything functions and how the Supreme Person meant for everything to be used for mankind's service. I say mankind's service to the Supreme Person. I mean, it's just rightly due that from whom all is coming, all is due. Krishna is supplying everything, so we owe everything to him. And this just makes sense if you come to the realization that God is in control of everything and God is providing everything. Then you come to the knowledge who that supreme God, that supreme person is. And this is what the Vedas are all. Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that all these Vedas are to be known so as to know him. You know. And in that way, when all mankind, all humanity has this as common knowledge, then the earth will be that heavenly atmosphere. Everyone will gain tremendous benefit just by engaging in conversations every day about the common things they know, which we are doing in ISKCON. And many of us do it out of duty, but that sense of duty eventually leads us to a sense of satisfaction for having done it that develops love in our heart. Love for the service, love for the person who the service is directed to, which also extends out to all those as well who are equally engaged as we are. And so we see on all those paths that are given to humanity, those who are making endeavors with what they know. We shouldn't judge wrongly and discriminate that they are useless endeavors. But those who are engaging in those endeavors need to be liberated by the truth. So rather than criticizing those who don't have truth, we need to do everything we can to give truth to those and not look down upon them as lesser than we are, but lift them up to that level we think ourselves to be at least. Lord Chaitanya would lift others above himself. Sometimes sarcastically, as we are seeing here, Vidura did with his brother, "O great king that you are, blind king," siding with the losers of the battle. He was still, after his son's been defeated. So the principles that they fought for, in their arrogance, trying to unrightly rule a kingdom that they weren't qualified with the mentality they had towards ruling the kingdom. Person doesn't become qualified by their desire. They become qualified by the activities of their lives and the way they conduct themselves. And what is being overly pursued today is one's desires without one's responsibility carrying out those desires. And we have to know knowledge brings responsibility as well. But then when we see the results knowledge has given us, it's easy then to sit back on our laurels and think now it's all been done. But no, ever increasingly as we approach the manifesting time in which all the communications and all the broadcasting networks of the world are going to be stopped once this melting of the ice caps takes place, which people think can be stopped, but it can't be stopped. It's not something that is meant to be stopped. It is returning the earth to its original, closer to its original place than when its axis was moved to an extreme place that it's in now, causing extreme disturbances of weather. Of course, we accredit the wind and the rain with certain elements in the air and these things and that thing. But what has more to do with our weather is our relationship to the sun. And this tilt that everyone knows the earth is having is causing the seasons. And if someone reasons with their mind the fact that if the axis was tilted just a few degrees closer to 90 degrees, the climates would be much more lessened. The severity of the climates would be lessened if they use our sense of reasoning. And so when we read the histories to know that the earth has been moved from its original place, then we could only hope by prayer that maybe there could be some miraculous way of the earth getting back into its original position of being a glorious planet, a heavenly dwelling for so glorious that those from heavenly planets would come here to visit when Krishna was here. And when Krishna is here, everything is perfect. Every house is in its place. Every ruler of every house is in their place. All described in Bhagavatam. So when we look at the universe, we can see it as a clock. But modern science is not using that clock as a means of, till recent, maybe some recent time, but they knew at the time of the writing of the Vedas this useful aspect of being able to know in the future from reading at what time these events took place by recording what stars were in the heavens, at what position when this writing took place. So that was the value of astronomy. But then with that, by having given from the foundation of the world before many souls were even brought into existence, Brigu, also son of Brahma, received the knowledge in his consciousness given to him as a boon by the Supreme Person who is sharing his body with him, which is what enables him to be able to put that sense of understanding and knowledge into his own mind, is because that mind that Brigu is using is being shared with the Supreme Person. And so Krishna gives that boon, and in the same manner that he gives that boon to Brigu, then the human beings that are dwelling on this planet, depending solely on the protection from God when these disasters come. The Supreme Person within them sharing that and giving them the means to be able to find that they have been pursuing in their life, no matter what it be. Once we turn to the Supreme Person, there is protection there by the act itself, revealing to the Supreme Person that we want his protection. We need his knowledge. We need his truth. We need to know the absolute truth about everything that God has done for the maintenance of mankind to be able to maintain ourselves. Everything that God has done for the continuance of civilization so that we can continue civilization. And superior to all that is the knowledge he is giving in this age, Kali Yuga, the most fallen age. Who do you feel empathy for more? Someone who's sitting on a throne and eating full meals every day, or someone who's out there suffering, hearing bombs going off, having the threat of their existence constantly as a prod for them to continue their existence? Feel empathy towards them. Krishna doesn't need us to preach to him. He wants us to go out and preach to those who don't know who he is. So this is how Maya, living in the temple is a form of Maya. We get easily into a state of complacence. And then the urge, because temple life is so satisfying. It's like being on vacation. Because the activities that temple life requires is worship of God. Basically. Every kind of activity we take part in the temple is directly related to some act of worshiping God, which normally is not physically demanding. And I've messed up some muscles in my shoulders, both of them, and I have to do artis. But I look at the pain as something Krishna is appreciating that I'm experiencing. And regardless of the pain it causes me, I still want to do this service, no matter what. I just love this form of worship that deity worship is in Krishna consciousness. And I know it's not meant for everybody. Not everybody is meant to perform deity worship. But it becomes such a means of experiencing personal closeness to God, to Krishna, that I wouldn't part with it now for anything. I would feel like something's missing in my life if I couldn't take part in all of these activities that I'm doing day in, day out. They become such a part of my life that I wouldn't consider any other way of living actually life. If you can't offer what you're doing to God with the activities you engage in your life, there is some deprivement of the pleasure. I know the difference. I've lived without offering things to God, and I know what life is like that, and I know the kind of pursuits human beings make to try and gain wealth in this world. So I know both sides. But until people come to understand the reality of having this deep, a personal relationship with the Supreme Person, they can't be expected to know the kind of bliss that brings. And this is why we have to feel empathy for those who are constantly in a state of suffering. In many of these literatures, this suffering that we go through can bring us an appreciation, because there's always someone suffering more than we are. Because we suffer with knowledge, and many are suffering without knowledge. Yeah. And without knowledge of the fact that everything is working for our benefit, because we've surrendered to the supreme purpose, and we want to promote in everyone's heart and mind a consciousness of the need to develop love. Love that will encase everyone that's existing, every form of life that's existing. Because love that comes from the source of life, who love is, then there is no other way to see everything that's coming from love itself than an expression of love's own being, right? And that's what Krishna is, and everything is being manifested from Krishna is expression of Krishna's personality, aspects of Krishna's personality, which Sheshanag is naming constantly, actually, as those 1,000 heads of Sheshanag speaking into Krishna's ear, as we say, whispering sweet nothings, but they're not sweet nothings. They're glorious expressions of Sheshanag Balaram telling Krishna what he feels about him and recognizing the qualities that Krishna has. So this is how God is satisfied, and he is doing this in the middle of the universe on that causal ocean, the churning of which has produced so many things in this universe that are still here now present. So there's some value to knowing that this milk created by cows, they're just more elevated cows than the cows we are drinking milk from. But they are so dear to Krishna, born in the mode of goodness, providing that which, the stirring of which, and in and of itself, it's a magical food that can replace every cell in the human body, this milk. And by man's contamination, he changes its construction and adds things to it in such a way that it actually makes it harmful to some human beings. That magical food that can be a replacement for every cell in the body and give nourishment and goodness to the soul that knows the value of it, what to speak when it has been offered to Krishna. This is one of the few foods, it actually does have physical benefit whether it's not offered. But these other foods are contaminating us by a life having to be taken or misused or mistreated, or they pluck things out of the ground. In Vedic culture, there are prayers. The consciousness of the living entity who is cultivating these seeds is actually with the consciousness picking from the fruits those seeds manifest, that those seeds will be giving as an offering to Krishna, that which is coming from them as eternal beings. That will be offered from their being. It's the seed of the strawberry that fructifies, that creates more strawberries. And the strawberry gets benefit. Strawberry is a living entity, a living being, taking the same form we were once in. We don't think about these things on a regular basis, but that's what's going on. We're contributing to the advancement of consciousness of everything that has life when we offer something to Krishna. It is a contribution to everything that has gone into that offering. Every little seed that has produced. And those seeds came from previous lives being lower forms of life. So those lower forms of life that we see as detrimental to our existence, germs and bugs, we've been that too. We've 8 million species of life explained in the Vedas that we have had to go through to reach the stage of human development. And so now we distinctly in our minds, we divide and separate all these different forms of life into different categories. And we were once in the same category we're putting everything else into as higher or lower. So this is why Krishna conscious activities is best for us to engage in, because it is beneficial for every cockroach that dies in the kitchen of Krishna, that even gets stepped on. When the devotee is chanting Krishna's name, that cockroach will get a higher birth, not guaranteed as his normal existence, because in his normal existence, his mind is concentrating on his next meal, which in a lot of cases is even lower birth than where he is. There's no gaining, there's no set gaining in the material energy. They can go up and down, up and down. They eat their prey, they turn into their prey the next time around because they're thinking about their prey. And so the prey is thinking about their enemy, then they become the enemy, then they become their predator. So this whole cycle is just made to be a continual existence within it. As long as living entities want to stay in it and develop desires to enjoy in it, they have it. And so Krishna is giving us the ability to be able to see the way to get out of it totally. And then we have our minds freed. And what frees it the most is this chanting of Hare Krishna, knowing that it is God's names that are all powerful over all forces that exist within the world. And because he has empowered his names with that spiritual energy. So the more we taste of it, the more we chant it, the more we are continuing to contribute to that powerful force that is going to free the living entities from the control that material energy has, called the false ego, surrounding the whole universe, that every living entity is contributing to, except the devotees that are chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And as we chant those holy names, then the powerful force of the spiritual energy that Krishna is giving into those names is what will transform the minds and consciousness of all those living entities that are enslaved. It is this recognizing them as being enslaved that gives us the real empathy, because it looks to us like they're enjoying. Regarding the material world, they think they're enjoying. They think they're enjoying. Put a smile on. Act like everything's normal. At the same time, all these contaminants are being put into the food supply with no thought whatsoever of God. People are engaging in activities that actually are detrimental to the advancement of the human race and the well-being of the health of human beings, because most things are being made for the ability to produce money, not for the ability to produce health and well-being. Then you see, even in the medicinal application, that those things which are supposed to be curing are creating addictions that are making the people who use those formulas wealthy. Doctors get wealthy off of you becoming dependent on their medicines. They don't get healed. And so our society, even its medical practitioners are not healing. They're not of a healing nature. And they look at it as a profession. They go into it as a profession that will provide them a form of luxury in their later years after they build up enough wealth to retire. And this is all an illusion of the mind. We create these things that don't exist in the spiritual world. And so we separate ourselves from our needs and we get taken over by our wants. And our wants are miscalculations by we could say, upbringing. Dysfunctional upbringing, that's what it is. Public schools are dysfunctional, evidenced by what they are producing. These mass murderers are coming out of public schools. You won't get that from kids who are being taught to love life and to know God as that force of love in the world, that we can uplift one another by knowing. And we can learn about such ways of doing so by study of the scriptures. And these become to us, like I say these things, like a repetitive thing we have to hear every day, every day, every day. But because they're simple truths, when we put them into practice in our lives, they become a simple thing to do as well. And then life doesn't become a burdensome, have to do this because somebody's forcing me to do it. No, we do things out of love because we want to. I'm in the Krishna conscious movement because I want to know how to love God. That's why I came to the movement. And I'm finding that this movement is offering the means to do that more than any other organization I've tried to become a part of to do the very same thing. Just makes it very easy to do that. So if you have desires to build great wealth and kingdoms in this world, I don't think this movement is the thing you want to enter into, because you will only get by the pursuance of those desires. You will only get what those desires are, which is a continuance of what we already have experience of in this life, on this planet. And there are many billions and trillions and countless other planets just like this that can be fulfilled by, that Krishna is more than willing to let us go to, if we want that. But if we have in our minds a developed consciousness and desire to know who is Krishna, where does Krishna live, what is most favorite to Krishna, then we go there. We go, and just the same way as desire pushes us to that direction we're aiming, that desire to aim for Krishna gives us that most supreme end result, to be able to come in contact with Krishna and be in that place where Krishna is. But it is by wanting to know Krishna, by wanting to serve Krishna, and by wanting to, and eventually developing love for Krishna, that automatically happens. We don't have to continuously pursue as some force in the world, I gotta do this so I can get there. No. Just love Krishna, just read, just practice the principles that give us experience of happiness through the day and life, reading such stories that your mind gets filled with these eternal experiences of relationship that these souls have had with Krishna and are revealing to us that they are having with Krishna after being with Krishna eternally and never having left Krishna's side. This is what Bhagavatam is revealing to us. And that's why we have to know we got to get back there as well. And that's where everything will be of that complete fulfillment that we're looking for here to be satisfied with. We can take Krishna's name and find that satisfaction in Krishna's name because it is the nature of the soul. And it's the experience of knowing what the soul is that we're looking for and running here and to find in some other people, to find in ownership of this thing and the possession of that thing. We're actually looking for what we're made of. The substance of the being, of the eternalness of the soul. Knowledge of it brings the bliss, the happiness, the satisfaction, and the realization of it being the satisfaction of what we're trying to find when we go out in the world looking for satisfaction. It is right there to be known wherever we are. It is right there to be known in this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, is devised in such a way to give us knowledge and experience of that, wherever we find ourselves capable of doing it. And so this is why, through the spiritual masters' parampara, they are encouraging us in every way to experience this chanting and do it. Just do it. Any comments, any questions, any realizations? Anybody like to share?
Thanks.
Experiences you've had by doing it? Jai. Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dhrtarashtra Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.